We are out here. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jordan McKelly. That's Mitchell Balla, and we are the Cover Your Balls crew. Today is Tuesday, December 29th, and we have a lot to get into, Mitch. We have an NBA update. A lot of things are going on in the NBA right now, and we have an updated playoff picture, and me and you are really going to dive deep into the NFL playoffs today. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it with our top four at four to start the show, though. Today's top four for four, we don't have a graphic for it, but our top four for four, it's our top four ice cream flavors. Mitch, lead us off.
Well, Jordan, I have a top two for sure in ice cream. And then the bottom two are just kind of like, it's dependent on the season and whatnot. So let's start at my top. Number one for me, I'm a child. I love Blue Moon. Okay, I think Blue Moon is a solid ice cream. Number two would definitely be raspberry, black raspberry. I'm a fruity guy when it comes to ice cream and only ice cream. Number three would be a vanilla chocolate twist. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Vanilla chocolate twist with sprinkles is a classic. And then number four would be cherry or black cherry for me. Like I said, fruity guy when it comes to ice cream. So quickly, that was my top four at four for top four ice cream flavors, and I'm intrigued to listen to yours.
That's solid, Mitch. I don't have a favorite as much as I have a time of the month. Just like females have the time of the month, I have the time of the month, Mitch, but for ice cream. It just depends where I'm at and what time of the month it is. And so I'm going to give you my four favorite ones, but necessarily not in order.
Okay.
Peanut butter cup. I mean, how can you not like Reese's? If you don't, you're probably not human, and you're probably numb to every other emotion if you don't like peanut butter cup. Two, cookie dough. I mean, it's a staple in most American households. It's cookie dough. Why wouldn't it be in my top four? I'm an American. Three, I have Oreo. Who doesn't go to McDonald's, Mitch, and get an Oreo McFlurry? I know I do. I know you do.
I do.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
And last, I have classic vanilla, like that French vanilla. And I'm not talking about the nice brand ones where you're going out to an ice cream place or even the nice brands in the store. I'm talking about that Kroger Giant Eagle brand. I'm talking about bare minimum. I'm talking about a value ice cream. That is my fourth one.
That's a solid list. It's a solid list. I mean, Oreo's definitely, man, now you got me thinking Oreo could have definitely been at number four. Because that's a classic. I might have to switch that out, actually. So Oreo jumps into four of my power rankings, I think.
What comes out of your power rankings?
Black cherry or cherry. Black cherry or cherry comes out. Oreo has to go in there. Then I kind of have like the fruit, the classic, the extra with the cookie and cream, and then the kid one.
Extra.
Hey, it's ice cream with something else in it, right?
Exactly.
Extra. And who doesn't love extra?
I know I do. Well, Mitch, let's switch it up and let's go into the NFL standings. Before we talk any games last week, this week, let's catch everybody up on where everyone's at in the AFC. Mitch, man, what a battle up in the South. The Titans are 10-5 and the Colts are 10-5, Mitch, and both of those teams lost last week.
Mm-hmm.
They had a chance to. I'm sorry to cut you off. They both had a chance to control their own destiny, and now neither of them do. Well, one of them does.
And it's crazy. And to think that someone could have wrapped up that division last week, and now there's a chance, Jordan, that one of those two teams that everybody was penciling in, one will win the division, one will get in the wild card, could very well miss the playoffs if certain teams win or if they lose and other teams lose. It's crazy, and we'll get into those scenarios today and on Thursday, but it's crazy how fast everything turned here within the past 7 days.
Oh, absolutely. And with everybody looking at the screen, and if you're not looking at the screen and you're listening in your car on your commute, most of the teams that are fighting for a playoff spot right now are 10-5. And going down into the East Division where the Bills are, the AFC East, the Bills are 12-3. But then, Mitch, there's another team that is 10-5 in the East Division, and that is the Dolphins. They won last week, but not without some controversy that we're going to get into with Tua Tagovailoa, whatever his last name is. That might have been the worst pronunciation of all time for Tua's last name. But between Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick, a lot has happened. And we're going to talk about that today. In the West, Mitch, Chiefs still rocking. they had a scare against Atlanta, but they're 14-1, and they're just like 7 games ahead of the next best team in the AFC West. Every division had at least 2 good teams, or 2 playoff-bound teams, except the West.
Well, and let me tell you, the Chiefs are in a really bad division. It's the worst division in the AFC because the second-place team is horrendous. Like, I mean, I don't know how they have 7 wins, and we'll touch on that later, but the Chiefs just have nobody to compete with in that division right now. I think the next team that could would be the Chargers within the next couple of years, and the Chiefs locked up the 1 seed home field advantage for the playoffs. So the road to the Super Bowl in the AFC goes through Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and that's going to be a tough one to play.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, we're not going to watch the best team in the AFC play in Foxborough, which is weird for us. But hey, looking up at the AFC North, we have the Steelers finally getting back on track last week, Mitch. They broke a 3-game losing streak after winning 11 in a row to start the season. And they beat a very good Colts team that was beating them in the third quarter, 24-7. Great comeback win for the Steelers. The Ravens, man, they're just kind of hiding. They are second above the AFC North. They were playing third fiddle to the Steelers and the Browns just because of how good the Browns were playing. But, they're sneaky, and they're right there in the playoff hunt. Browns at 10-5. And, Mitch, look at the wild card. One of those teams is not going to get to play in the playoffs. And
I know.
We expanded the playoffs to 7 teams this year. And
I know.
And an 8th team with 10 wins is not going to get to play. Honestly, it could be with 11 wins. All 4 of these teams could possibly win this week. And who are you picking to is that, if you looked at the wild card standings, looking at the Dolphins sitting at 5, the Ravens sitting at 6, the Browns sitting at 7, the Colts sitting at 8, do you think that changes at all? What is your AFC playoff prediction?
I think what's going to happen is I think the Ravens win and will get the 5 spot. I think the Browns will win and get the 6 spot. And I think the Colts win and get the 7th spot, leaving the Dolphins out, who play at Buffalo to end the season. Buffalo, with a win, will wrap up the number 2 seed in the AFC and stay away from Kansas City until what would be the AFC Championship. So they still have some things to play for. As we know, the Steelers are already in, and we'll talk about it later, but it looks like they may be okay with just being in right now, not worried about home field advantage. So I ultimately think the Dolphins are going to be the team left out, and they'll have 10 wins on the outside looking in.
Well, I have a question for you. You said you're thinking that the Bills are trying to lock up the 2nd seed in the AFC. Now, we just saw today that the Steelers made a big move at quarterback. They're not starting Ben Roethlisberger this week, which means they are starting who, Mitch?
Our fan favorite, Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. For those of you who don't know Mason Rudolph, he is the quarterback that Myles Garrett wanted to decapitate with a helmet last year.
Whoa. Jordan. We can't be spreading lies on this show. I've told you, and I've told multiple people over the past year, Myles Garrett was simply trying to help Mason Rudolph put his helmet back on.
Yeah, that's not going to hold up in court, because if you watch that video, it looks like a silverback gorilla and a child. One is on the Sports Illustrated Body Edition, and the other is, he's not. He's not at all.
The other one's definitely one that still cries mommy and daddy when things don't go his way.
Exactly. The reason I bring this up, though, is now, do you think the Bills pull off versus the Dolphins because the Steelers are starting who they're starting at quarterback? Do you think the Bills have any of that in the back of their mind, or do you just think that they're going to continue to ride this momentum and punish everybody in their path?
That's a really good question, and I'm anxious to see what happens. But Jordan, with how they're playing right now, they look like the team to beat in the AFC, which is crazy to sound, because I've told you all year it's Kansas City. Buffalo's offense looks like the scariest offense in all of football. So then you have to ask yourself, do they want to disrupt that by resting their players and hope that, the Browns lose to or the Steelers lose to the Browns and they would just clinch the number 2 seed outright? I think what we'll see is they'll play the first half. And I think with how their offense is going right now, there's no reason to believe they won't be up more than 2 or 3 offensive possessions, and they would pull everybody at halftime and hope the defense holds. But they also could say, hey, we don't want to see Miami, because that's a team they could very well see in the first round. depending on how other things shake out. So they could say, let's beat them, let's get them out of the playoffs, and let's go clinch the 2 seed outright. So I think Buffalo will start their normal starters. I won't be shocked come second half if Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and company are out of the lineup.
No doubt. So looking at all these teams that are 10-5, which one, in no bias, because I know that you're an enormous Browns fan like me, taking your bias out of it, who do you think is poised to make the biggest playoff run who's sitting at 10-5?
Oh, it's the Baltimore Ravens right now. The Baltimore Ravens are playing phenomenal football. They got all their guys back from the COVID list a few weeks ago before they played that thriller Monday Night Football game in Cleveland. They haven't missed a beat since that game. Lamar Jackson, had to go to the bathroom, came back, and he's balling right now. He's not throwing for a lot. I mean, Sunday, I believe he ran for over 80 yards and only passed for 140 yards, but the Ravens look electric on offense again. It looks like a team that you don't want to play, whether it's home or away. What about you?
You certainly, out of anybody, the Ravens are just hitting their peak at the right time. They're playing great football. Also, there's been so many other great matchups that have happened in the last couple of weeks that Baltimore was able to stay below the radar without saying anything. I mean, they've always been there. I mean, they were in our power rankings the whole year. But they kind of got hid just with how the Steelers were playing and with how the Browns were playing. The Browns playing so well and the Steelers playing not so well the last few weeks. They've just been there. They're dangerous with how they're running the football. And I think I don't think that they could win a Super Bowl, but I think that they could possibly get to the AFC title game. I think that's possible.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another thing to consider is the pressure's not on them. Last year, they were the number 1 seed. They had Tennessee come in, a team that beat New England. They were the last seed to make the playoffs, and I think Baltimore kind of overlooked them, but they're not expected to, at least from the outside. Maybe in Baltimore, obviously their expectations are different, but from the outside, they're not expected to make a run right now. When you talk to people, it's all the Chiefs, the Bills, and then the Steelers maybe still are, but those are the top 3 teams right now people are picking to come out of the AFC. So Baltimore, and that's what's scary about a team like Baltimore. They have nothing to lose right now. They're firing on all cylinders. This is a team that could be like Tennessee from last year, get in and knock teams out and make a run.
Well, I disagree with you. I do think they have a lot to lose. I just don't think they know it. What I mean by that is, look at it like this. If they get to the playoffs, and even if they just win a game, Mitch, they just win a game in the playoffs and get bounced. That's a huge success. Lamar Jackson's never won a playoff game. They've had a lot of key injuries to guards and people on the offensive and defensive line. If they were to win a game, that's huge. Imagine if they lost this week to the Bengals. They do play the Bengals this week, correct?
Correct. And the Bengals are playing well.
How far-fetched is it to think that they couldn't beat the Ravens? The Ravens are a one-dimensional team with wide receivers who, last time I checked, they drop a lot of balls. It's not crazy to think that, what if the Ravens get knocked this week? Would that not be the most disappointing season for any team in the NFL? Not only do I think that they're most dangerous, but I think they have a lot more to lose than they think they do. Good thing they're naive, though, and that they don't know it, because they're playing very inspired. They're playing like they belong in these conversations of teams that could potentially make a run.
Absolutely. And the Bengals are a team that's won 2 in a row. They just beat the Texans after beating the Steelers 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Football. So they're playing some pretty inspired football, I guess you would say, for a team that's 4-11. And that's definitely a team that can knock out the Ravens, division opponents. So you know what's on the line there. But I just keep thinking that the reason I say they have nothing to lose is because, as fans, you always have a caveat to, this is why this happened. And the Baltimore Ravens fans, we had COVID. We had COVID, and we lost to Pittsburgh because we had none of our starters, and our players never got to get in a rhythm together. So you already know that excuse is going to come out, and so that's why I kind of think that whatever happens now, because they did mess with the NFL schedule quite a bit this year and their own schedule.
No, I get that. I definitely understand that. Maybe it's just from my expectations that I have for the Ravens, and I feel like they share similar expectations that I have in terms for their franchise. And they're a winning franchise. Every year, they're a piece or 2 away from possible making a run, right? And so to not make the playoffs, possibly, I think they will, would be devastating, especially if they get bounced in the first round. I mean, they have to win a playoff game this year. Luckily, I think they're they're playing the best at the right time, so I think they can do that. But my team personally, it's not even the Baltimore Ravens. It's still the Cleveland Browns. I think Baltimore has a chance to make a lot of noise, but I think the Cleveland Browns are still my favorite team to possibly win 2 games. And outside of the only team that I know for a fact that could win 2 games is Kansas City. Unfortunately, we won't get to see them win 2 games unless they make it to the Super Bowl. So if they say the number 1 team didn't get a bye and we took 8 teams, I know for a fact that they could win 2 playoff games. I don't feel like that about any other team other than the Browns. Other than the Chiefs. And so I think the Browns can do it. And we're looking at the Browns possibly being lined up, sidelined the Buffalo Bills if they win this week. And that is a matchup that you and I have talked about for over a month now, that if the Browns could play the Bills in the playoffs, they might have a chance. You still feel that way with how Josh Allen's playing?
I don't feel as confident about that anymore. That's for sure. Just because we've seen how bad our secondary is from week to week now, from the Baltimore game, and even now the Jets. But I also think the Browns would hang with them and have a chance to beat them strictly because they can keep the ball away from Buffalo by running. Now, that's something the Browns haven't done well the past 2 weeks. Nick Chubb has not gone over 100 yards in 4 straight games. But I think that ultimately has to do with the issues the Browns have faced, how they got screwed over by the NFL this past weekend, and Wyatt Teller being out. When Wyatt Teller is out for the Browns, this team can't run the ball. And that there's no way around it. The numbers back it up. But if everybody's healthy and Cleveland goes to Buffalo, we can control the clock. We saw the Browns have 2 95-yard drives against the Giants, and that's a great defensive front. They were 8-minute-plus drives, and that's what you have to do against a team that can strike quick like Buffalo and Kansas City. But I'm telling you, Jordan, Buffalo is playing lights out right now. It's scary how good the connection of Josh Allen's to Stephon Diggs is right now.
And 3 touchdowns last night. I mean, Stephon Diggs looks like the best wide receiver in football, like no doubt. He is just electric when he touches the ball, and he has great hands. I'm really happy for Stephon Diggs. Who would have known? Like, it never, when you try to force your way out as a star player, very rarely does it work out for you. And man, has it worked out for Stephon Diggs. He became the only person, other than Brandon Marshall, who was able to change teams in their first year, he's the first person to have over 120 catches. Stephon Diggs has 120 receptions this year. The last time a wide receiver made a switch in their prime that was a great wide receiver was Brandon Marshall, and he did it with 118 with the Chicago Bears. So Stephon Diggs is having that kind of season. No wide receiver has ever done what he's done after leaving a team, a playoff team, like the Vikings, in their prime, going to another team and making them a playoff team. Man, if wide receivers could win MVP, man, Stephon Diggs would be right there for it.
Absolutely.
Dude's a bad dude. I really underestimated in the offseason what effect he would truly have on this offense. Maybe it's because I was thinking of old Josh Allen, but he's gotten significantly better. It's not like Josh Allen has stayed. It's not that the addition of Stephon Diggs just put them over the top as much as it was just the synergistic effect of Josh Allen getting better in the offseason plus Stephon Diggs. I don't think Josh Allen's the same quarterback he was last year. He's much sharper in a lot of areas.
Oh, not at all. He's continually, I can't talk today either. He has gotten better continuously through all 4 years of his career, and it showed. And right now, he's taken that step right now to what appears to be the second best quarterback in the AFC behind Pat Mahomes with how he's playing. And you gave him a number 1 option like Stephon Diggs, and this is what happens. They have become a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone over the NFL standings, Mitch. What I want to get into is a couple of the matchups from this last weekend. The Browns dropped a heartbreaking game to the New York Jets in MetLife Stadium Saturday. It was something a lot of Browns fans said they saw coming, but not necessarily something that I thought was coming, even with the wide receivers being out. Why did the Browns look so bad on Sunday?
There's a lot of ways I can take this. First off, I did see it coming. Now, granted, for those of you that are watching or listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or live on YouTube with us right now, Browns linebacker B.J. Goodson tested positive Saturday. Well, then they did contact tracing, and the Browns were without all 4 starting wide receivers. That's not good. We were already without Wyatt Teller, our starting right guard. Jedrick Wills Jr. was sick, non-COVID related. And then you go to our backup, who was Chris Hubbard, who tore or dislocated his kneecap the week before against the Giants. And he's a starting caliber type lineman that now you lose. So you have a backup center at right guard, a third string tackle at left tackle, no wide receivers, your signal caller on defense out. Jordan, for me, the writing was on the wall here for the Browns. And then I just can't get over the fact that our game plan, our first 11 plays was to throw the ball 9 times. That I don't care who's playing line, and I don't care if people are saying, oh, they stacked the box, because statistics actually showed the Jets didn't stack the box as much as teams the past 5 weeks did against the Browns. The Jets stacked the box the least amount of times against the Browns running the ball than the previous 5 opponents, which everyone said, well, that's why they didn't run. The box was stacked. It's false. There was already analytics and numbers out there. Kevin Stefanski made a mistake, but I can't blame him. He had less than 24 hours to change the game plan, which he didn't. You had one of the hottest quarterbacks in all football in Baker Mayfield. Jordan, I think we can agree he was one of the hottest coming into the week. And you were going to ride that hot hand. But when you are without your 4 top wide receivers and your tight ends go 10 of 22 on catchable passes, you're not going to win a game. I don't get – and Austin Hooper, does the man know how to run after he catches the ball? I've never seen somebody catch a ball and fall down. And like, I mean, he could get 8 yards on some catches and he just falls. It was very heartbreaking. Double doink showed up again. If he hits the extra point, you're playing for a game tying field goal instead of a go ahead touchdown there, or tying touchdown. It just changes the complexion. I know we need a touchdown, but if he makes the extra point, a field goal is different on a drive before the Jets make it a 7-point game. So I was disappointed. I saw it coming, but what did you think about these Browns?
I thought there was a lot of problems, a lot of things that they couldn't control. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with their resiliency and ability to come back. Even though the Jets have only won 2 games, Mitch, and they're 2-13, they're all pros. Like, it's not like a bad NFL team as opposed to a good NFL team is not like an NFL team and then a high school team. No, you're still a group of pros, okay? And so what's really frustrating about this week is all of our wide receivers they're gone. And who makes the blocks on the outside? Wide receivers do. So you bring in all these practice squad wide receivers, and we expect them to know all of our stuff, and they're not going to know. So even if we don't throw the ball and we run the ball, we weren't getting – we never really sold out for the run, and I was also disappointed with how we attempted to run the ball. But having guys on the outside who can block is a very important, integral piece to the run game. Now, people never think of wide receivers blocking when they think of the run game, but it is a very integral piece. It's still very important. And a lot of those guys like, what was it, Bradley Hunt? What was it? Bradley, the number 84 for the Browns, the practice squad guy.
Jamarcus Bradley.
He just didn't know what he was doing on some routes, and just like the other guys. And he was probably the best guy we had. There was a lot of problems. Baker Mayfield's 1 for 9 when he throws the ball for over 40 times. So why would you have him throw the ball? Like, that. Like, that's a statistic And
let's keep in mind, this is a coaching staff that we brought in that's focused on analytics. That's an analytics. So how do you ignore that is what I want to know. And to me, that's a rookie head coach making a rookie mistake.
Yeah, 1 for 9. He's 1 for 9. So, you had a sample size of 9 games, Mitch. That's a lot. That's like almost 1/3 of Baker's career, isn't it? Like, that's a lot. So that was very confusing that he threw the ball 53 times.
And Jordan, what quarterbacks have we seen this year? We saw Joe Burrow throw it 61 times against the Browns in week 2, unsuccessful. We had seen Big Ben throw it over 45 times twice in the past 3 weeks. Both games they lost. What games have you seen this year where quarterbacks throw it over 40 times where they're successful?
No.
It doesn't happen like that. When you make a team one-dimensional, you set them up for that. But you have to make the other team do that to you. The Browns did it to themselves. I mean, I know people are going to say, well, Lyman, blah, 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 and Baker cost us the game because he fumbled. No, Kendall Lamb is a third-string tackle for a reason, people. That man blew him up all game and got behind. How is Baker supposed to know when a guy's behind him when he goes 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, balls out? Okay. The only issue I have is Baker can't hold on to the football when he does a QB sneak, which I got an argument on Twitter, Jordan. I usually don't get in arguments on Twitter.
I didn't see this.
But when you're going to put nonsense out there without fact checking it, I'm going to come after you. And a guy said that Baker pulled a Mark Sanchez and butt fumbled, which wasn't true on the 4th down. Number 93 for the Jets came from the outside and pinned Baker between the linemen and caused the fumble. So even that, Baker didn't just needs to hold on to the ball, but it's not like he ran into his own guy and fumbled. The contact was made, right?
Yeah.
And he took all the blame. Credit to him and Kevin Stefanski. They took all the blame after the game. They could have clinched a playoff spot. And now it's win or go home pretty much. And I'm excited, but also terrified.
Yeah, it's a big stain on Stefanski's resume for this beautiful season. Man, it's something that you don't want to see at all. Not like this. It's very frustrating because I would like to think that he was probably the coach of the year. And now I'm thinking, oh man, coach of the year. I don't think so. You can't lose to the New York Jets and, win coach of the year. So that's very upsetting. The most upsetting thing is the Browns have a great chance of not making the playoffs. I mean, they have to beat the Steelers. And I don't care who's playing quarterback for the Steelers. That's going to be a tough game for the Browns because you think all the people who are playing for the Steelers, they don't want to win this game? Of course they want to win this game. And those guys aren't that bad. I mean, so it's going to be a dogfight this week. There's just so many things to point to for the Browns game, but let's go ahead and switch it up, and let's go ahead and get into the Raiders. I know you're a huge Raider fan. The Raiders could have helped the Browns basically clinch a playoff spot this past week versus the Miami Dolphins, and they crumbled down the stretch, and they gave up a game-winning field goal to the Miami Dolphins. Mitch, how's that make you feel?
First off, we should have known how the weekend was going to go based on the ending of that game. I stayed to watch that entire game, and what a choke job. And that starts with your head coach. So, Jordan, let's start there with the head coach, John Gruden, who is the most overrated head coach in the NFL, who now is looking to end 2 consecutive seasons, losing 7 of their last 8 games and end their season at 7-9. But Jordan, he won a Super Bowl. Well, guess what? He inherited that roster in Tampa Bay.
From Tony Dungy.
I don't put that on him. Yep. He inherited that roster, right or wrong?
No, he certainly inherited that roster.
With a great defense. So I'm looking here. John Gruden, one of the highest paid coaches in all of football, signed a 10-year, $100 million deal a few years ago, making $10 million a year. Is a 113-110 coaching record, Jordan, worthy of $10 million a year?
I'm going to say no. I'm definitely going to say no.
Is having a losing record your last 3 seasons and a losing record 4 of your last 6 seasons good? Keep in mind, the only times he had a winning record, they went 9-7. Not even double-digit wins.
Yeah.
He's not a good coach. He's not. And anybody that wants to say, yes, he is. No, he's not. If you're a good coach, you don't do that. You don't tell your player to fall down when the opposing team has 2 timeouts left. You score the touchdown. You make them drive at the end. And then what the hell were you doing on defense? What was that? How do you let a guy get that wide open down the sideline? The sideline, let him go in the middle of the field. Yeah. Sideline out of bounds. And then your defensive lineman with the worst egregious face mask I've seen in a long time, Jordan. I mean, that was Helen Keller could have called that.
It was pretty bad. It wasn't.
That's how obvious it was. The Las Vegas Raiders are who I said they were. Frauds. A bad football team, a team that is only built to compete in the AFC West, and it is now the Browns' second bad loss of the year because they lost the Jets. I told you when they lost the Raiders, that was the Browns' bad loss. Every team has a bad loss every year. The Raiders are frauds. Derek Carr is a fraud. John Gruden is the biggest frauds of all. He should go work at a dump because that's what he does coaching. Because his Spider 2Y banana, it's not winning football games. The Raiders suck. And if you're a Raiders fan, go find a new team because that's just tough for you.
I think the Raiders are a lot better than you think they are. But,
I don't know.
But not worthy enough for me to cut back at you on that. Let's jump to the NFC East. The NFC East, that was a huge joke early in the season, and it still is a huge joke later in the season. The best team in that division right now is 6-9. That's the Washington football team. They don't even have a mascot. The second best team in that division is the Dallas Cowboys, Mitch, and they've gone through 3 or 4 quarterbacks with their franchise quarterback, or not really franchise quarterback, being out for the year. Who wins the NFC East?
It's a toss-up. And you mean the NFC Beast, as Sam Summers would say if he was on with us today. The NFC Beast.
No, I would not say that.
Oh, you wouldn't say that? Okay.
I would not.
Sorry, Sam. I tried to get that in there for you.
Nope.
I mean, Washington, you win, you're in, right? If they beat Philly Sunday, they're in. But, Jordan, are they going to win with a XFL quarterback starting? Are they going to go to Philly and win? I don't know. I have no confidence in that.
I don't either.
The Giants, they've kind of crumbled. They had everything they wanted right in front of them. They've crumbled now. And all of a sudden, Dallas, a team that everybody wrote off, people were saying they were the worst team in the division, now win, and Washington loses. Boom. The Cowboys are in the playoffs. It's crazy to me that one of these 4 teams is going to get in the playoffs. 2, let alone host a home playoff game. And then 3, on the off chance, could end a team with a winning record season in the first round. You're telling me the Cowboys could knock out Tom Brady in the first round of the playoffs?
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, there's a chance. There's certainly a chance. I don't know who I'm going to pick. I don't know who I can pick because I can't put faith in any of those teams.
Well, you know who you can't pick? You can't pick the Eagles because they're the only team in the NFC Beast. No shot. Out. No shot. Out of here.
So it's the football team, the G-Men, or the Cowboys. And right now it's the football team's division to lose. I'll go with them, but I'm not going to be shocked if it's the Cowboys that get in.
So let me tell you something, Mitch. The only team in the NFC East that hasn't had a revolving door at quarterback this year is who? The Philadelphia Eagles. And who's the only team that has 4 wins or fewer in the NFC East? The Philadelphia Eagles. How do you have the only team that has a stable quarterback position? And when I say stable, I mean he's just healthy enough to play. And you still can't win enough games to possibly make the playoffs? Playoffs? Like, are we serious?
They're not talking playoffs in Philly.
And it is unbelievable to me that Daniel Jones can be out for multiple games and the Giants cannot have Saquon Barkley for the whole entire year. That the Washington Football Club, that has been going through in so many different allegations for so many things that have happened in the past, for the personnel at Washington, they changed their name this year. Their head coach just had his last chemotherapy. Still, they have a better record by 2 games than the Philadelphia Eagles. They just released a quarterback who went to a strip club in the midst of a pandemic with no mask on, and that team that has a quarterback like that has 2 more wins than the Eagles. That is how bad the Eagles are. That's how bad that division is, that Washington has had more turmoil than every other team on and off the field. Yet, they still have the most wins. Ron Rivera, you remain one of the best coaches and best leader of men in the NFL. And not only did you coach this season, but you kicked cancer's ass while doing it. Salute to you, my friend. I got the Washington Redskins. I'm rolling with them. I'm rocking with them. I think they win a playoff game.
Football team, dude. Come on. We got to.
The Washington football team. I'm sorry. Yep. I can't say Washington Redskins anymore.
No, not anymore. I think it's theirs. I agree with you. I agree. I mean, if you're Philly, what do you do? I mean, what do you do this offseason? Do you look at the head coach? Do you look at the rest of your team? I mean, Jalen Hurts is playing well in the 2-3 games he's played, I believe, so far. So it's not Carson. You can't play Carson Wentz anymore. Philly is in an awful spot. They're in an awful spot. They're tied down to a quarterback that you now know can't play quarterback, at least under your coaching staff, and they're in trouble. I really think it's Washington or Dallas here, Jordan. I think the Giants will lose this week and kick themselves because it was theirs to lose. Don't forget, they had the tiebreaker with Washington. Everything was in front of them, and they lost it. They're going to kick themselves down the road. Colt McCoy, Daniel Jones, Joe Judge, Freddie Kitchens.
Oh, Freddie Kitchens. I'll never forget you, sir. I'll never forget you.
I want to forget him.
I'll never forget him.
Hey, would you take Freddie Kitchens or John Gruden?
I'd take John Gruden. John Gruden's a good football coach. I can't hear your Raiders hot takes anymore.
All right, Hugh Jackson or John Gruden? Because, Jordan, there's a lot of people that say Larry Bird is the white Magic Johnson. And to me, I think John Gruden is the white Hugh Jackson.
You think John Gruden is the white Hugh Jackson?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
man.
honestly, he's just making too much money.
Yeah.
I mean, so Hugh Jackson would be a better economic bet if you're a franchise, wouldn't he?
You make a good point. Well, guys, we're going to check out our NFL Week 17 power rankings. This is Mitch's. These are mine. Let's do this. Mitch.
Mine?
Roll with them.
Oh, yeah. Jordan, we got a new team at number 1 this week, and it's because of how they're playing. It doesn't mean I'm picking them to come out of the AFC right now, but strictly the Buffalo Bills look like the best team in football with how great their offense is. Sure firepower offense, they're number 1. KC falls is number 2. They've been at number 1 all year for me. Jordan, are they as good as we think they are? They barely beat Atlanta. They beat Atlanta on Young-Ho Koo missing his only field goal attempt this year to tie the game and send it to overtime.
How sad was that?
Yeah, my fantasy team didn't like that.
That's the Falcons' best player. They're basically their only Pro Bowler, I believe. And he misses a kick to send that game to overtime. And not a difficult kick, mind you. Not a difficult kick at all.
Just the Falcons season wrapped up right there in 2020. But so I have the Chiefs at 2. Saints and Packers 3 and 4. I think they're the 2 best teams in the NFC. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong. Baltimore at 5, Jordan. We talked about them earlier in the show. We were looking at the standings. They're a team that's sneaky all of a sudden, and we know what that offense can do. So that's why they're at 5. The Seahawks, who now look like they're going to wrap up the NFC West after beating the Rams last week, at 6. And what a fall from the Rams, Jordan. We were both high on them a few weeks ago. They're out of my top 10 for sure. The Steelers at 7, just because of how they played that second half against the Indianapolis Colts and that great defense they have. Somebody lit a fire under Big Ben's ass and that offense's ass. Maybe it's because Juju Smith-Schuster didn't make a TikTok video before the game. Makes you wonder. I got the Browns at 8 because I think when they are healthy and how they were playing, they are still one of the top 10 teams in the NFL. And then, Jordan, I'm not impressed with anybody else after that. That's why I went with the Titans and Colts at 9 and 10 because one of those teams has got to win the AFC South. We don't know who yet. So that's why they're there. Colts have a great defense. But, man, the Titans have looked suspect since the Browns beat the brakes off them.
Well, and so do the Titans. I mean, the Titans gave up a bajillion points against the Packers. I mean, that was really rough. I completely agree with you. I had a hard time filling out the end of this because I had a lot more confidence in probably 12 teams in the NFL, and I feel like I'm only confident in 7 teams. But I mean, that's what happens when we have games. We have more sample size, performances to base it off of, and man, I agree. Let me rock my list. We got the Chiefs at 1. I mean, I don't know how I could not have the Chiefs at 1. All they do is win no matter what. DJ Cullen. I can't put them at number 2. I mean, how do you lose? I don't work on the college football playoff committee, Mitch. You can't lose a game and be ranked worse than where you were before you won the game. Okay? So I have the Chiefs being at number 1. I like that they're winning close games. I think that'll translate over to the playoffs. I got the Packers at 2. They are not letting anybody bully them at all. They played, they tackled really well yesterday, and man, were they helped out by that snow. I feel like that field was really slow last night. I think that definitely helped the Packers out, and they just bludgeoned the Titans last night. We have the Bills at number 3. Honest to God, I think any 3 of those teams, 1, 2, and 3, can beat each other. This is where the drop-off happens for me. I have the Ravens at 4. I don't think the Ravens could beat anybody in front of them, just like I don't think the Saints could either. Like me and you talked about, the Ravens are extremely hot right now. I'm actually really excited to see how they play in the playoffs if they get there. Saints at number 5. They'll figure it out, but they'll never have a team that's worthy to be number 1 because they don't have a quarterback who is a dominant playoff quarterback, because Drew Brees just isn't. He likes to lose in the first round. Stats are one thing, but being able to play in the playoffs, that's for big boys. At number 6,
two of those losses aren't even his fault.
I know, and even if he played, they might lose those ones too. He can't throw more than 7 yards downfield. That's it for me. The Browns at number 6. I got the Seahawks at number 7. The Titans at number 8. The Steelers at number 9, and the Colts at number 10. If you look at 6 through 10, all of those teams have glaring flaws. If you look at the Colts, one of their glaring flaws is that quarterback. He's still Phillip Rivers. He still turns the ball over. You can't turn the ball over. The playoffs, his arm isn't what it used to be. In that defense, that is supposed to be a top-tier defense, I've watched them get blown out in points just put on them so quick this year, and I don't know how good of a defense that really is anymore. I think they're an above-average defense, but they're not as good as we think they are. The Titans absolutely have 0 pass rush. Just to give you some context, TJ Watt from the Pittsburgh Steelers has almost as many sacks as the Tennessee Titans do. Hooray! That's how bad they are at getting to the quarterback, and that's why Aaron Rodgers just feasted, even though it was a snowstorm. And that's why Baker Mayfield last week, who is not Aaron Rodgers in any shape or form, roasted the Titans too. The Seahawks have still a considerably below average defense, and the Browns have history. And when I say what I mean by that is they have all of history just battling against them. And that's why Browns fans are nervous this week, even though Rudolph is starting at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because as a Browns fan, we've seen pretty much every way you could possibly lose. And I would just say the history is just as powerful as the Titans' bad pass rush. And so I have that as a flaw for the franchise. Mitch, any glaring things at our list, any issues you have with my list?
No, Jordan, because when you look at 6 through 10, we have all the same teams there. Just different order, but we agree that they all have a glaring weakness. I just had the Seahawks at 6 on mine because their defense is starting to come around. By the way, I don't think Jamal Adams is getting enough respect right now. He has now set the single season record for most sacks by a safety in NFL history. Ever since they got Dunlap from the Bengals, who forced his way out of there, the defense has started to play better because they have an actual defensive line presence. So I do see the Seahawks coming around right now. Their defense isn't as bad as it was earlier in the year, but all the reasons you said for the Colts, Titans, Steelers, and Browns, you're 100% correct. I don't agree with this with your Saints where you have them at 5, but we'll see if they want to change your mind in Week 17, potentially get the number 1 seed because they have the tiebreaker with Green Bay, and then potentially run the NFC and go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, my Saints one could never change, and honestly, having the Saints at 5 is me being very nice. You've watched their last 3 playoff runs. Drew Brees has only gotten older, and even though his completion percentage has gone up, don't be confused. How some people are productive and other people are busy? 2 people might be working on stuff for 16 hours a day, but there's a possibility that one person is being way more productive. That's kind of how I feel about Drew Brees. His completion percentage, is kind of confusing because you see that and you're like, oh my God, he's getting older, but he's getting better. But no. The way they're playing the game is much different, and he's throwing the ball. Kamara had 6 touchdowns the other night. You know what? Most nights he should have 6 touchdowns because Drew Brees has these 80-yard passes to Kamara that are like 3-yard dump offs, and that's most of Drew Brees' passes. I can't believe, think of all the quarterbacks. Drew Brees is definitely the worst out of any team in the top 10, maybe other than Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh,
and I think him and Phillip Rivers are close.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't say he's worse than turnover machine Phillip Rivers.
Hey,
that's a compliment to Phillip Rivers.
Hey, they have one less loss than the Saints. That's all I know.
Hey, Drew Brees was out. Michael Thomas has been out. Listen, I trust the Saints, and 2 of the 3 playoff losses aren't his fault. His wide receiver literally got hit by a bus.
Coach better. He's on the sideline. He's coaching. He's coaching on the sideline. He needs a better job of coaching up Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's been with you for forever. You just paid him basically like backup quarterback money.
What was he supposed to do in Minnesota a couple years ago where his guys forgot to tackle and Stephon Diggs just on a play where they were setting up for a field goal just scored a touchdown?
Well, that's called destiny is what that's called. No, it's called take care of the game so that freak plays can't alter a game like that. Freak plays can't alter a game like that if you're up by 14 or you're up by 10, if you're up by more than one possession.
He drove down against Minnesota to give him the lead. He did what he had to.
I need more. I need more.
I'll talk to him this week and tell him that his linebacker play is horrendous and that
3 first-round exits in a row. 3 first-round exits in a row. It actually might be more, and you're sitting here defending a guy who no, but he played in the game. Did he not? Did he play in the game?
He played in the game, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Was it Tom Brady's fault last year when they lost to Tennessee?
Are we talking about Drew Brees right now or Tom Brady?
No, I want to compare it.
Sorry, I can only talk about one player at a time. I'm not multi-talented like Mitch Bella. All I'm saying is Drew Brees is not going to get you to the Super Bowl. Drew Brees is not going to get you to an NFC Championship game. He's not. And now, unless that Saints defense plays like they played 2 years ago and they're the best defense in the NFL, they're not making it that far. They're just not.
Book it. People book it.
And that's in a very watered down NFC. I don't think this is a very good year for the NFC at all. The Packers are
2 teams. It's 2 teams, in my opinion. I mean, we don't have the Buccaneers in here who just won by 40 points, but that's because the Detroit Lions had someone from their public relations staff coaching defense.
And notice neither of us have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in our top 10. That's
right.
How low we think of Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Jordan, he doesn't have any weapons, though, people say.
Unbelievable. Speaking of that, the 180 of that is Cam Newton, and Cam Newton threw for 60-something yards, I believe, last night. Do you think Cam Newton gets another starting quarterback job?
I don't. Unfortunately, I like Cam Newton. And whether you like Cam Newton or don't like Cam Newton, you need to figure out if that's because of the personality he has on and off the field or if that's because of the football player. And for me, football player, I don't see it. He has that hitch in his throw now after shoulder surgery. I hope I'm wrong because I really like Cam Newton. But I think his time has come to an end. He's taken a beating, being a running mobile quarterback, being that big. And unfortunately, I think that combined with no weapons in New England, I mean, most quarterbacks would be unsuccessful there, if not all of them this year. You can't even name me 2 wide receivers right now, besides Julian Edelman, who isn't playing.
Well, N'Keal Harry, and N'Keal Harry's brother, N'Keal Harry II.
And the guy that was bagging groceries next to Jamarcus Bradley for the Browns last week. And then the other guy who was helping Marvin Wilson fix my flat tire on the street a couple weeks ago, with the Browns practice squad. So both those guys. So, and Sam Summers, RIP Cam, folks, I think he means his NFL career. We can fact check that to make sure nothing just happened. But Jordan, I think his football career is done.
Yeah, it's sad because besides Alex Smith, I think that he was the most, everybody was cheering Cam Newton on. I think if you ask people before the season, hey, do you want Cam to do well or do you want it not to work out in New England? Despite people disliking Bill Belichick as much as they do, I bet you that the vast majority of people I've talked to all have been rooting for Cam Newton. And I think that's what's been so disappointing is he's still a great athlete.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're in the NFL. Like, this is the cream of the crop. So when an NFL player is a half a percentage off, or maybe last year you're playing at 85%, now you're playing at 84. What percentage might be a lot. And so Cam Newton could still play in the NFL, maybe as a backup quarterback. He cannot start though, because he just doesn't have the strength in his. I think with watching his mechanics and watching him play, I feel like he's just never going to have what he used to have in his shoulder, that explosiveness, that pop. And it looks like he's really struggling later in games. And so I think that's why he hasn't thrown the ball over 20 times many times this year. And maybe there's a lot of things that we don't know about, and maybe Bill Belichick is just working with what he has. And maybe that's why he hasn't started to sit him. Who knows?
I don't know. It's tough to see, but hey, he was a phenomenal quarterback and had one of the best MVP seasons I think we've seen in a long time with how he did it in Carolina. But Sam Summers says the reason is because Bob Belichick is coaching the Patriots this year. That's why they're horrible. Bill Belichick is not coaching.
That's possible.
Interesting. It is possible.
It is possible. In 2020, anything is possible. And Mitch, because anything is possible, it's time to...
Hey, switch it up.
It's time to switch it up. It's time for Mitch Balla's afternoon headlines. Mitch, roll them.
All right, Jordan, let's start first in college football. We'll start with the number one team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, where their wide receiver, Devonta Smith, is the first wideout to win the AP Player of the Year award. Are you shocked?
Not shocked at all. Where was this guy last year? Oh, that's right. He was the revolving door of Alabama's wide receivers. Every year, someone comes out of Alabama who could literally catch a football with their feet. Like, he's incredibly athletic. He has like over 1,500 yards receiving. Not surprised at all.
He is apparently, according to Vegas, the now front runner to win the Heisman Trophy. Winner would be the first wide receiver.
How cool would that be?
And the first non-quarterback since Charles Woodson. So that would be a first for a long time. Jordan, staying in college football now, Ohio State plays number 2 Clemson Friday night at 8 p.m. We will have our college football preview show for the college football playoff. On Thursday, should have our college football analyst Jake Pilata joining us again, and we'll preview NFL, but that's on Thursday, New Year's Eve. But Jordan, Dabo Swinney, head coach of the Clemson Tigers, ranked Ohio State 11th in his final coaching poll. Yesterday came out to defend that, saying it's no disrespect to Ohio State. Jordan, I don't know about you, but usually when you start a sentence with no disrespect, it means all disrespect. So did Dabo Swinney mess up by putting the undefeated and third-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes 11th in his coaching poll?
I don't know about you, but he's making me feel like he's about to leave Clemson or something, because he's never done any of this. Like, he's never been this outspoken until this year. And he's been a little more outspoken than I think he should be, and I think he just put his foot in his mouth. Why give I almost said the Browns. Why give Ohio State anything more to work with? Like, they're already going to be motivated to beat you. You beat them in a bowl game last year. Why do that? And that's not going to pump up your guys at all. It's just bad look for Dabo Swinney, and it's just like it's a bad strategy. Like, Clemson could still win this game, and they might, and it would still be a bad strategy. In no shape or form is this going to help Clemson beat Ohio State.
And not to mention, he's contradicting himself. He ranked Ohio State 11th because they played less games. They played 6. He's endorsing his quarterback for Heisman Trophy winner, but Jordan, he didn't play all the games. So therefore, he can't win the Heisman Trophy, right?
He only played 9.
Yeah, so therefore, if you're going off Dabo Swinney logic, Trevor Lawrence, therefore, should not be eligible for the Heisman Trophy. And that is all I'll say about that. And I'll move on.
I like it.
We're going to have 2 NFL ones, Jordan. First up, after the weekend, according to betting websites, Aaron Rodgers has now officially passed Patrick Mahomes as the front runner for MVP. Do you agree?
I do agree. He's doing more with less, which I've always known. But just the way Patrick Mahomes has played, just kind of that eye test has always had him over Aaron Rodgers for me. But, I watched their game this weekend. I watched the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is just playing way better football.
Completely agree.
Not that Patrick Mahomes is playing terrible. It's just Aaron Rodgers is playing like he's the best player in football. And, we've said
And
that for the
less.
last 10 years.
Like you said, he does it with less. Patrick Mahomes has the number one receiver in all of football, and that's his tight end. And his wide receiver is then in the top 5 for receiving yards. So he has all the weapons he needs. You know who's not playing good football right now, Jordan? That would be former Washington football team quarterback Dwayne Haskins, the 15th overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft, was released by the Washington football team. A lot of issues, a lot of question marks. So, Jordan, I pose this question to you. Will a team take a flyer on Dwayne Haskins after this year? And if so, who?
Oh, my mic's not up there. I went to go talk to my mic, talk to my camera. Absolutely no. 0% chance anybody takes a shot on Dwayne Haskins. Let me tell you why they shouldn't. And this is coming from an Ohio State fan. The coach for the Washington Redskins has cancer, Ron Rivera. I don't know if you know that, but the coach for the Washington Redskins has cancer. You know what's bad for people with cancer right now, Mitch? COVID-19. Don't know if you've heard of it, but it's been killing people. And so if you don't have a quarterback who is willing to put their team and their coach's well-being first before their selfish wants and needs, I don't want that guy on my team. I've done some dumb things. Lots of dumb things. I've written them all down before just to see how many. It's a long list. I've done a lot of dumb things and a lot of really dumb things in college, but I would have never done, it's just complete lack of awareness. And I feel like that's a real problem when some jobs, you don't get a second chance. You just don't. Some jobs you don't deserve a second chance. And when you're making millions of dollars throwing a leather ball around a grass field and thousands of people come and watch you, I don't know why we do it, but we do it. Sometimes you don't get second chances. Other people have, like Michael Vick and other people in the game, but I never thought they should have necessarily got a second chance. I don't think he deserves one. What do you think? I know that's a pretty harsh take. I understand he's 22, 23, but, we're talking about people living and dying, so.
It's not a harsh take. It's the correct take. Ultimately, I think it's going to take a lot for a team to come take a flyer on him, but there is a couple teams that come to mind that I think originally, Jordan, this is a team he grew up watching and rooting for. And given all the off-field issues he has, that's a lot of pressure regardless if he has off-field issues to play for your hometown team.
That's what the money's for.
I completely agree, but we've seen other players in other sports not be able to handle that pressure. I think a change of scenery was 100% necessary. I think he was in a toxic culture, not saying about Ron Rivera, but that ownership is in a lot of trouble right now. A lot of scandals going on, a lot of investigations. I just thought he was drafted by what reports say the owner. The front office didn't want him either. And that is always going to be a problem. So ultimately, I think he needed to be out of there. Will he get another chance? I won't be shocked if he doesn't. Is there a couple places I think he could go that would completely change him around? Absolutely. And you know what? 2 of them are looking for quarterbacks or will be soon. And one's New England, where they're not going to put up with any of that BS. And 2 is Pittsburgh. We know Big Ben's old. We know Mason Rudolph is not what they want. And Dwayne Haskins is a big quarterback that can handle the weather, as we saw when he played at Ohio State. But it'll remain to be seen if a team takes a flyer on him. I hope somebody does, but not shocked. And you called this, Jordan, when he came out. You said you called this from day one. So all the credit to you. You did not think he would be a successful NFL quarterback at all.
Hey, thank you. I didn't think it was that hard to look at this though. I feel like I'm in the majority of people who maybe thought he wouldn't work out, just for the sheer fact that how many quarterbacks in college football, like the really good ones, do they leave early ever? No, never. They stay, they soak up all they can because there's so much that you don't know before you go into the NFL. So you better master everything in the college system first, because everything in the NFL is just accelerated. So why would you accelerate that process and go to the NFL first? That's always been a big red flag for me. At least at that position, just because at that position, you have to know how every position should basically play on the field. Like, you're the chess master of everything. And that was just a piece of why I told you nobody should take a shot at him. He doesn't work hard. Apparently, reports say that he's one of the first people out of the building every day and one of the last people in the building to start. Like, that's not what you want. You want your quarterback to be one of the first people to get into the building and one of the last people to leave. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do that. But until you're a master at your craft, you probably should. And
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting to follow. I just can't believe, and you told me that you talked to somebody that said they wanted to actually release Dwayne Haskins last week, but they couldn't just because of roster numbers and they needed a quarterback. And so this gave their practice squad quarterback one more week to practice with the team before having Dwayne Haskins released. So a lot to watch. A lot to watch. And speaking of watch, we have a lot of people watching us right now. And whether you're watching us or listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our page. If you're listening on Spotify Just
or
do it.
Apple Podcast, subscribe and rate us, leave a review. Let us know what you think. And thank you for listening. So let me cover the bases now and cover up your baseballs, Jordan. 2 blockbuster trades have been made, both by the Slam Diego Padres. They acquire former AL Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays and Yu Darvish from the Chicago Cubs, also Cy Young finalist multiple times. Jordan, are the San Diego Padres, after only dealing prospects, now the World Series favorite going into the 2021 MLB season?
I think they might be the favorite, but the funny thing about baseball is you can be the favorite, and that doesn't really mean anything. It's like when people say, you are preseason All-American. Doesn't mean anything until you play the game, and all the projections, you can throw them out the window. They're much better. I think they're going to be a contender. Are they the best? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think you can be the best until you beat the champs. And they're not the reigning champs.
I agree. They addressed their biggest glaring need, which was pitching. Now you have a surefire rotation with Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Mike Clevenger, former Cleveland Indian, and Lamont. That's a great rotation. And their offense was already loaded. We don't even need to go through that. They were called Slam Diego for a reason last year. Grand slams, home runs, the way they scored. So I think they'll have to be the preseason favorites to win the World Series, but I completely agree. You can be the preseason favorite, and it doesn't equate to wins or a championship. And they're going to have to go through the defending champs who are in their own division. It's going to be interesting to see come baseball season, Jordan.
Yeah, that's tough.
On sports-related news now, Iggy Azalea calls out Playboi Carti, the rapper, after his album drops for not flying his family out for Christmas while he was with the girl he cheated on Iggy Azalea with while she was pregnant with his firstborn. Your thoughts on this?
Well, Mitch, I'm not going to lie to you. There was a lot of fornication that just happened in there. I'm not sure who's with who at this point.
It is safe to say Playboi Carti is not with Iggy Azalea.
Playboi Carti? Who's Playboi Carti? I thought you said Carti. Oh, there's somebody else named Playboi Carti? That's a name?
Yep.
Oh, okay. That's why none of this makes sense. I was like, is he making up words and making up artists right now? I have no idea who that is. Should I?
No, because his last album he dropped on Christmas was trash.
Okay. All right.
Just want to make sure our viewers and listeners knew out there, non-sports related news. Jordan, this one is sports related. We go to the NBA, but it has nothing to do with on the court action. But it has something to do with who we've talked about in previous shows, and that is Larissa Pippen, who, as we know, caused Malik Beasley to end his engagement and marriage with his ex-girlfriend and is now with Malik Beasley of the Timberwolves. Jordan, reports are Bronny James, not LeBron James.
No.
And Larissa Pippen have exchanged DMs after Bronny was caught liking her photos. But here's where it gets fun. LeBron James and Savannah James have both come out and addressed it. They are not happy they were pushed over the edge. Savannah putting on her Instagram story, and I quote, "With everything going on in the world right now, this is the shit y'all talking about. At the end of the day, y'all are talking about a minor. I don't care what type of celebrity y'all think he is. He's a child, and the bullshit needs to stop. Y'all got the right one." unquote, from Savannah. LeBron James then chimed in and said, and I quote, "Uh-oh, y'all effed with the wrong one now. Good luck. It won't be cute," end quote. Your thoughts on the GOAT and his wife chiming in on false accusations regarding Bronny and 46-year-old Larissa Pippen?
Man, a lot. All these years we really didn't know who Bronny was. LeBron wouldn't even give him an Instagram. And like the day he gave him Instagram, he had like 3 million followers. It was almost like everybody's just been waiting. We found out a couple months ago, Bronny James is into the ganja. He likes the ganja. And you know what? A lot of people like the ganja. No disrespect. I like you, Bronny. But, you need to stay clear from, is it Larissa? Is that her name?
Larissa, however you want to pronounce it. Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. We can just put it that way.
That's bad news. That's bad news, Bronny. Wouldn't do it.
She is a homewrecker, Jordan. Since we have started Cover Your Balls, this is only episode 12. She has now been in our headlines at least 3 times, involving 2 now different people or families.
Yeah, she's definitely getting younger. She's definitely trying to rob the cradle. That's clear. She started with Scotty. She went to Malik, and now she's at Bronnyville. That's 50-something, that's 20-something, and that's a teenager. And I'm not going to lie, that's pretty weird.
Minor.
That's a minor. That's definitely a minor. People go to jail for that.
Mm-hmm. So, Jordan, let's stay with the NBA before we transition into our final segment, which is the NBA today. Some headlines around the league. Cleveland Cavaliers forward Kevin Love is out for the next 3 to 4 weeks with a calf injury. Cavaliers have played 1.5 games with him in their 3 games so far. He's somebody that's often injury prone. Is this going to hurt them?
No. Full steam ahead.
He says no.
We're gonna keep rolling.
And finally, before we move into our NBA takes, there are 5 undefeated teams left in the NBA after 1 week of action. Can you name those 5 teams?
Say that again. Barely paying attention to you in the Star Only live show. Good.
There are 5 undefeated teams left in the NBA after 1 week of action. Can you name those 5 teams?
I maybe can. The Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
The Atlanta Hawks.
Correct.
The Detroit Pistons.
No.
The New York Knicks.
Nope.
Really? I was just trying to think of all the teams that I wouldn't want to play for in the NBA.
Well, there's still another one. There's probably 2 other ones you'd want to mention on there that are still undefeated.
I don't know. I don't want to take up time.
All right. Well, we'll round it up. The Cavaliers, the Hawks, the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Indiana Pacers are the only undefeated teams as we head into the second week of the season. And with that, those are this afternoon's half-hour headlines. And let's go in to the NBA, Jordan, where are the Cleveland Cavaliers the team to beat?
They might be. Colin Sexton's averaging over 27 points a game right now.
Andre Drummond is playing like a monster. Darius Garland looks like in 3 games he has taken major strides off his rookie campaign. They're 3-0. They sit atop the East at 3-0 with the Magic and the Hawks. Are you shocked they're 3-0?
Of course I'm shocked they're 3-0. In Vegas, the over-under was on 22.5 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I'm shocked. What were the odds that they would win their first 3 games, let alone 1 game?
The first time since 2016-17 they've done that. They have a very good chance to go to 4-0 tonight when they welcome the New York Knicks into the Romo Foho in Cleveland, Ohio. So, Jordan, are the Cavs going to improve to 4-0 tonight? But no Kevin Love, no Matthew Dellavedova, no Kevin Porter Jr. I think there's one more as well. They have 4 guys out tonight.
Kevin
Oro is out.
Ooh. Having Kevin Porter Jr. out is probably the biggest one for me. I still think they get the win. I'm really excited to watch the game tonight. I haven't watched a full game yet. I've watched highlights and I've watched pieces of the game, Mitch, but I haven't watched a full game yet. I'm really excited to watch this game tonight. You know what? I'm not going to lie. I've really talked a lot of shit about how bad they've been over the last couple of years in the process of them rebuilding this team. But if this backcourt's going to work with Garland and Colin Sexton, they might be pretty damn good. And so I'm really excited to see how they gel because they're just so young still. I will say that the Cavs have a very promising team for the future. They might not, win over 25 games this year or even 22 and a half. Who knows? It's early. But there's definitely room for hope. That's for sure.
I can completely agree with that. And I would also just like to take credit for them being 3-0. I picked them. I said hammer the under. I think they were listening. I think I lit a fire under their ass, and now they're trying to play and win. And so I will take all that credit. So you're welcome. You're welcome. That's all I have to say. Jordan, after 1 week of NBA action, I have the standings here in front of me, but what's your biggest takeaway so far from 1 weekend? Is there a team that surprises you, not named the Cleveland Cavaliers? If so, is there a team you're disappointed in so far?
I'm really disappointed in the Clippers. Holy shit. How in any point in an NBA game are you losing by 57 points? 57? Come on, man. Are you serious? 57 points? Like, they didn't have Kawhi Leonard, but is Kawhi Leonard worth 57 points?
No. And Jordan, the Cavs, when LeBron left, never lost by 57. We're never down by 57. We're never down at halftime by 51. So that should just go to show. I mean, let's keep in mind, the Clippers have Paul George.
Playoff people. Mitch, we do have to tell everybody, nobody loses by that margin. It's not like historically, it is one of the worst margins of victory of all time. I feel like I'm directing a composition right now at like a play with my hands. Like it is. I'm unbelievably disappointed. They didn't really add anything in the offseason to get better. They added Serge Ibaka, and somehow the ratings for him, they think he's like a top 50 player still. I saw one person with their ratings the other day. No way, Jose, is he a top 50 player? That is not a very good pickup at all. And then they lose by 60. Gosh, it's very disappointing.
And just for statistical reasons, it is the worst loss in NBA history in the shot clock era. The worst halftime deficit in NBA history in the shot clock era.
Bill Russell played in the shot clock era. That's how old the shot clock era is, Mitch. That's how old.
And no team in NBA history has ever, never been done before, Jordan. Not once, not twice, not ever, has won the NBA Finals when they were down by 50 points at halftime. Something to keep your eye on and something to remember. For all the people, the Clippers are better than the Lakers. I don't know about that take right now. I have to agree with you though, completely. I can't believe whether you have Kawhi Leonard or not. We're talking about some historically bad Cleveland Cavaliers teams. We're talking historically bad teams in the NBA that have never been down that much and lost by that much. It's sad to see. I mean, I get we're 1 week, but we're allowed to overreact. We're allowed to overreact and have hot takes, and I don't think this is an overreaction right now. You should be worried whether you have Kawhi Leonard or not.
You can't get your ass kicked by that many points and expect people to not think that the world's on fire. You know what I mean? Like, it's so bad. Like, our expectations for the Clippers are so high, and rightfully so, right?
Right.
It's unbelievable how that played out. I'm like I told you, this is the most excited I've ever been for the start of an NBA season. That's even counting the LeBron Cavs teams that I've watched. There's just a lot of great storylines. What is the most intriguing thing to you that you've seen happen throughout the NBA through 3 games?
I'm gonna have to say it's the Brooklyn Nets. I know they're 2-2. I know they lost last night to Memphis, but Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving did not play. Jordan, their first 2 games, those two on the court together, are a problem. A big problem. I don't know. Listen, I told you last week when we did our NBA preview, I thought it would take some time for them to gel. It looks like they're gelled. I mean, you talk about those 2 elite players in the NBA that can score at will, and then add Karis LeVert off the bench, Jordan.
Oh, Mitch.
4 games.
Mitch, you didn't hear about Karis LeVert? Partially torn ACL.
That's
Oh, man. What a just got him. We should have put that in the headline news. I forgot to send you that. Yeah, Karis LeVert, partially torn ACL. He's going to miss some time. And that is a big piece for the Nets.
wow.
Maybe I shouldn't even have broke that news right now.
That's tough. But guess what? They still have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
They do. I still agree with everything that you've said. I think they're really scary good. They look like they have a lot more chemistry than I thought that they would have. I will say that. Oh, that's Dinwiddie, not LeVert. Thank you, Sam. Wow, I scared you. I scared you for a second there,
Yeah, I was
Mitch.
going to say, geez. All right, so Karis LeVert still, but Spencer Dinwiddie's no slouch either. I mean, it's a starter. They lose him now. But
Gonna have to
man.
have people fact checking our takes. Hold on here. I thought the Browns won games. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. But another team that it doesn't surprise me, but the Phoenix Suns, 2-1. They're playing good basketball through 3 games. A team in the West that you and I, talked about, but another team that's 2-1, Jordan. The Portland Trailblazers. CJ McCollum had 44 points the other night. Out-dueled James Harden. I mean, took him to school. Just saying, Blazers.
Hey, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. One time I was getting done with an afternoon run, and CJ McCollum lives in our area, and he bumped into me on the way to the bathroom and said, "Shit, my bad." I was like, "Yeah, you're bad." Looked up at him, all sweaty. That actually did happen, but yeah, happy for him. He was okay last year. I thought he was better the year before.
He dealt with back issues last year. He played through it all last year.
Yeah, well, so did Lillard with carrying the entire team. Sometimes you have to play through a little back issues. No, but I'm really glad to see that he's finally hitting stride and he's playing well again. 44 points, that's a ton, and the Blazers can really use that because, there was a game this year already where Dame Time had 9 points in the game. He has down nights like everybody else does, so it's nice to have a second star who can do that. Yeah.
3-3-0, baby.
3-3-0.
Put us on the map. Jordan, are the Lakers still the team to beat after 1 week? Let's overreact here. Is there a team that's going to beat the Lakers? They're 2-2.
Yeah, I don't know if the Lakers are making the playoffs at this point, Mitch. No, I'm joking. I can't overreact that far, but I still think that they're the favorite. I want to overreact, but like them being 2-2 and the Nets being 2-2, like you losing at this point in the season doesn't bother me at all. I don't think it really bothers me until after maybe 10, 15 games, once teams get their footing a little bit. Keep in mind, Mitch, that different COVID protocols could come in place soon because they're not in the bubble. So I'm really curious to see how everything's going to work with them playing at each other's stadiums. I know that they reworked the regular season schedule, so you played teams that had a closer proximity to you more than you would play like instead of LA, like the Lakers playing Boston may play a team like the Cavs in extra time. And they did a lot of that in the scheduling. I'm really curious to see how that affects the NBA. I want to overreact, Mitch. I'm sorry. I can't give you what you want because sometimes you don't get what you want. And so I have nothing to really overreact on, Mitch. What do you got?
I guess nothing other than the fact that the East runs through Cleveland.
Yeah, it's nice to have a pro basketball team again. And we'll see if they can keep this thing going tonight. I'm excited to watch, like I said.
It's mind-boggling to me that they won their first game, and it was the first time they had been over 500 since that LeBron James guy left. That's mind-boggling. So they didn't just say one, not 2, not 3. They're going for 4 tonight. They might win 4 games in a row without LeBron James. It's to be seen yet if Obi Toppin's playing tonight. He's been out for the Knicks. The guy was high on in the draft, and that's why I am not a scout. That's why the people get paid to do their job. Although I could have told you Anthony Bennett was going to suck when we took him years ago. That's not. We're not talking about that today. I'm not bitter about that still.
No, it's okay.
No, this is a safe place. Safe
It
place.
is.
I'm still bitter about it. Damn it. Either way, I'm just happy the Cavs look good. everyone's welcome. I lit a fire under their ass, Jordan. And that's about all we can talk about in the NBA after only 1 week. We'll have to see what happens with the next week. Maybe the Cavs. Who knows? I don't know how many games they play in the next week. Maybe we'll be 6-0, 7-0.
I agree.
Maybe the league quits because we're so good. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we started the show early by 30 minutes because we have some people who have COVID, so we're handling some things behind the scenes. We had to start this for 30 minutes. Regular shows will start at 4 p.m. If you haven't liked this video yet, this live feed, go ahead and do that. Share and subscribe to us. We appreciate it. It gets out to more people. Mitch, before we go, we have one thing left.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what that one thing is, Mitch?
I do. Do our listeners?
Who has bigger balls?
Mitch, who has bigger balls? Does the Washington football team, they should have called it the club. It should be the Washington Football Club. Is the Washington Football Club, do they have the biggest balls, Mitch, for releasing Dwayne Haskins this week? Or, you can finish it. Go ahead and finish that. Bring it home.
Or is it the Miami Dolphins and Brian Flores for benching Tua Tagovailoa in the Raiders game for Ryan Fitzmagic, and then having Fitzmagic lead them to a game they had to win for playoff positioning, only to name Tua Tagovailoa the starter again in a must-win scenario, Jordan? So, who has bigger balls?
Who has bigger balls? Is it Dwayne Haskins Dwayne Haskins. Is it Washington Football Club or Brian Flores? Mitch, who is it?
It's Brian Flores, because you knew this is a move Washington was going to make. You knew it was coming. Well, you're talking about a rookie quarterback you're benching for a veteran quarterback that comes in and outplays him, only to say the rookie's a starter again. You know that's playing in his head, but at the same time, it could be a good thing, but we don't know that. It's also playing with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but for Tua, it could be, hey, if I suck today, guess what? I have a god that's coming in and is going to bail us out. But at the same time, he might feel the pressure that if I don't perform well, I'm getting brought out again. It's the Dolphins. I mean, this is twice now. Twice now we've seen Tua underperform, and Fitzmagic comes in. Unfortunately, the one time in Denver, he couldn't get it done. Gets it done in Las Vegas, and we'll see what happens in Buffalo. We'll see if Tua makes it the whole game. Does Ryan Fitzpatrick come in, and what do the Dolphins do? But for me, Brian Flores and that coaching staff have bigger balls.
Yeah, I don't know what pants Brian Flores wears, but I imagine they're really expensive to hold up the weight of his big balls. Brian Flores definitely has the bigger balls. It's not even a question. He's doing what no head coach has really ever done, which is play a quarterback for half the game. Like, he's basically playing a college style. Like, I haven't seen this type of commitment to possibly playing two quarterbacks ever at this stage of the season. It makes way more sense to just start Ryan Fitzpatrick to me, and just use the time you had for Tua as time to get better. I don't think it's not a failure of a season for Tua to put him on the bench and start Ryan Fitzpatrick right now. That's a different discussion, though. It's definitely Brian Flores.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
No doubt. Well, guys, thank you for tuning into the show. I know we started 30 minutes early today, but we appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, like this video, subscribe to this video, share this video. That's Mitch Balla. I'm Jordan McKelly, and we're out of here.